Good morning, everyone. We're ready to start. Would you please star 6 your phone so it kills any background noise? Janice, will you do roll call?
President Davidson,
Here.
Vice President Massame,
I'm here and happy other.
Secretary Kincaid is present, Treasurer Hahn,
Present.
Director Hector,
Present.
Director McGraw,
Here, go Bucks.
Director Ricketts, here, Director Setzer.
Here.
You do have a quorum if everyone's present.
Thank you. I will call the meeting to order and let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is approval of the January 8th Federation Board of Directors meeting. Rick, motion to accept. I have a second. Second for Dan Hector. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. Before we go into the management report, I have a couple announcements that I'm going to do before the president's report. One, if you noticed when Janice did roll call, she did not do a roll call for Doug Bergmoser for District 8. Doug Bergmoser submitted his resignation, I believe it was last weekend or the weekend before that. District 8 has been notified. There will be a part of the normal election process that we will be entering into, an election for a new District 8 representative that will fill out Doug's term, which will expire at the end of March in 2022. So District 8 will receive a notification for anyone interested in running for that seat, and there will be an election held that will be consistent with the regular election that's being held for the 5 open board seats. The second thing that
Your phone, people.
The second thing which I would like to do is recognize the management companies and the boards in Kings Point for what is a fantastic job in the distribution of the first vaccine. I can tell you folks that it was a concerted effort by First Service in their conversations with the state, and a letter which they sent to the Office of Emergency Management, also with the master, and they're working with the Office of Emergency Management. Special gratitude has to go to Mike Gardell and the emergency squad, not only for the work they did in helping this community obtain the 5,000 dosage, but also for the numerous volunteers that they had for traffic. A special thank you goes out to Vesta, to Ginger and Matt, and the entire Vesta staff. I would especially like to recognize Matt Kermouth, who has worked tirelessly for the last couple of weeks. He is the one, along with Ginger, who met with the state, developed the traffic control pattern for the vaccinations, worked with the state on how it was set up, because the state of Florida must approve the entire traffic pattern, the way it is going to be operated, and how the doses are administered and who they're administered to. Fortunately, Kings Point, through the foresight of Vesta, had previously set up the reservation line, which made making reservations over the phone easier, and also had previously set up the online reservation system. I realized that it took a few people a few attempts at times to get through on the lines. Ginger, do you know how many residents actually got vaccinated or had reservations?
Residents, we've got some others in there, but it's over 4,000.
So
We don't know today what's
over
gonna.
4,000 residents got vaccinated. Matt was able to speak to the state, because there is a state representative here, to offer any additional vaccinations we had to surrounding communities for residents over the age of 65. So vaccines did not have to be returned back to the state. I think we probably came pretty
The
close.
4,000 is the total number. I don't know what's gonna happen today.
Yeah, but we had at least 4,000 so
Total
far,
doses.
and we're working on it today. But I will tell you, just so you folks know the work that has been put into this, and I congratulate them. Ginger and Matt were on the phone texting each other at 3 a.m. last Saturday morning on this. Matt Vermouth has been outside every single day, making sure that everything was running smoothly, making sure that everybody was here. Matt has done an absolutely tireless job in helping this community, and this board and this community owe a major gratitude for Matt for what he has done, and also for Ginger in working with Matt. If it wasn't for Vesta setting this thing up and working it through, I don't think it would run as smoothly. I have seen massive comments to how well this was run. I think the state is exceedingly pleased. There is one other person that I would like to thank, and that is Kat, who is the president of the pickleball court, for organizing and working. In talking to Ginger, we are one of the only pods in the state that has set up a hospitality room for volunteers where they were fed free of charge. It involved over 50 people having snacks, having lunch. Vesta prepared for Chef Mark to make a hot dish and bring it up to the hospitality. The state could not be more happy with the way Kings Point has run this, and to everything we know, they will be back in 3 weeks to redo it. But I think this community truly owes a great gratitude to all the parties involved, and it was the one time, and I was very glad to see it, that Vesta, First Service, the Master, and the Federation all came together. Vesta provided transportation to residents who needed transportation to the vaccination site. It is a fantastic job on all, and I hope the residents are pleased with what they did, but I want to start the meeting today with an expression of our gratitude to all parties involved, and specifically to Matt for all the work. If anybody has seen Matt and knows Matt, I saw him the other morning. He looks rather tired, and I think he is looking forward to today ending so he can hopefully get some
Alcohol.
alcohol, as Ginger said. I know he's looking forward to some few drinks over the weekend, but he truly did a fantastic job. I cannot compliment him enough, and I can tell you the Federation Board does have plans to recognize Matt for the work he did. Unfortunately, Matt is not here because he's outside working the vaccination. But the board does have plans to officially recognize Matt for all the work he did. If you see him, please say thank you to the state workers who are giving the vaccinations and to the volunteers who are directing the traffic. If you come into the Clubhouse Drive, just stop and say thanks to them. It hasn't been the warmest week in Florida. They have stood out in the cold along with the state nurses who are administering the vaccines. They really have done a super job, so thanks to all. And with that, I will turn it over to Keith for his management report.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
I just wanted to echo on a little bit what Jack said, just with congratulating everybody here, and especially Vesta for handling the vaccine rollout. And Matt, I talked to him yesterday. I said, hey, thanks for taking my phone call. I'm sure you've taken thousands of calls this week, so I know he's doing a great job, and we appreciate that as well. So with that being said, another quick announcement for us, our phone system for First Service is currently down, so if you're trying to call and have a phone, it is down. Just a quick note on that. We're working with Spectrum to get that working as quickly as possible. This is the First Service Management Report for currently all Federation directors presently sitting on the board are current owners of the condominium parcels or dwellings in which district they represent for Kings Point. This was verified with information from the county records as of January 31st. Quick updates on our operations under the COVID protocols. We are experiencing an increase with visitors into our lobby. It's not a very big lobby, so we're trying to make sure people are staying safe and staying separated. We're starting to have an influx of when closings come in and when people come to the office, so please, if you can, try to make sure we're limiting that to 5 people maximum, and if everybody can wear their mask inside the lobby. We've had some issues and incidents where some people have been not wanting to put those up, even if they're dropping something off quickly. So just a note for the board there that we're starting to see that and having to react to that a little bit. So just obviously with everything going on, just want to put out that precaution. Administration wise, for the month of January, we did complete 46 transfers and 37 leases. We did take about 3,500 phone calls, did 464 pest control appointments. We had almost 1,500 walk-ins. We updated 275 emergency contact forms. Again, we continue to get those in, so if you tell your districts you represent, just let them know to turn those forms in anytime they have a new contact or new phone or new email. Just let us know. We want to get the information up to date as most as possible. We did 86 alteration forms for the associations, 27 violations, and did 18 new contracts as well.
Question.
Yes.
What's the response time on pest control right now?
We've been inside the 3-day window with ease. So
Okay.
yeah, it's everything caught up nicely since the beginning, and even with people coming back, I think the service they're doing, the products they're putting down is working well. And I think it's lowering the calls down, so it's been working well. And we haven't had an additional technician. They've been running the one since the end of November, really. So it's been working out well. Annual meetings, we are going to be wrapping up all the annual meetings next week on the 11th. So the annual meeting run is almost over for the associations. We appreciate again all the meeting rooms being set up by Vesta, being sanitized, and all the communities and board members really just have done a nice job with keeping the masks up, limiting people coming to the meeting. So it's worked out well this year in light of COVID happening. Can't turn the page, sorry. Insurance update. We did have a nice insurance committee meeting yesterday with USI, so there will be a timeline coming out for the renewal process. So over the next really 2 months, renewal is April 15th for the board. We're gonna be having a couple extra meetings with USI as they get numbers rolling in, and I believe we're gonna try to have them at the next board meeting, just as a general update. Like I said, as they start getting pricing coming in. The meeting yesterday was really just about market conditions and just our claims review. The new process that the insurance committee has been working on to review all the claims every quarter, just to keep everybody up to date with that. Again, pest control is working out well. Community Promotions Committee, we're gonna be talking about the new website proposal and new business, so I'll leave that till that section. Landscaping wise, the vendor contracts for section 2 and 4 have been reviewed by the attorney and will be at the next board meeting's presentation after the committee does its final review and the contracts committee does its final once over with it as well. OLM inspections were completed last week for January. They are going to be completed at the end of February on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. The palm and oak tree trimming, there is a proposal on today's meeting to review and renew this new contract with a different vendor. So we'll kind of go through that methodology under new business. Mulch, we have received about 50% of our surveys back when we sent out the mulch surveys from all the POCs and presidents, so we're getting some good feedback from those. We have reached out to several other vendors and starting to get preliminary numbers back from them as we look to update and redo the mulch contract for this coming summer. So we'll have some additional bidders coming in and some possible changes to the whole mulch process. So we're looking to improve that. Work orders for landscaping for the month of January, there was only 10. Lots of requests came in from section 4. Average turnaround time was 5.6 days. A lot of those were requests, so some of them took a little bit longer to process. And again, we've been asking all the associations to get on our Avid accounts payable system, so with the annual meetings happening, we've actually increased that to about 93 associations are now on Avid. So we're trying to close that gap a little bit and get everybody on there, so it is a good system. And I know that number was about 40 something about 6 months ago, so we're working that on pretty good. And again, emergency contacts and after hours emergencies, tell your districts and people if they have an issue after hours, that by calling our number, they'll get a hold of me right away and we'll address whatever's going on. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, behind you.
No.
Are you good to do the new business?
Before I have Ginger come up, and she's probably gonna beat me after the meeting, not listed on the agenda are 3 land trust items that need to be addressed. One is the approval by the board of the survey that the RFEC, Dan Hector representing the board, and Vesta have worked on, and a new process for a service review, which the board, and I'm going to ask Ginger to present that to the board for our approval so we can get the survey out to the residents. It has been circulated to all the board. It's a much more comprehensive survey, so during your report, Ginger, can you, at the end of that, cover the request? And I'm quite sure we can get a board member to make a motion on that. The second thing which I'm going to add to the agenda is, as we approved a budget to replace the roof and paint the South Club, we'd like to get that started before the rainy weather. And I know that Ginger's going to ask if we can advance that work to proceed prior to April 1st. We do have the money. It will be replenished out of next year's budget, so whether we started at the 1st of March or started after the 1st of April, it is not going to have an impact on any of the financials. And Ginger, when you cover that, I'm quite sure a board member will be glad to make a motion to advance that. And the third item which I wanted to add to the agenda is Dan Armstrong is here today, and he is going to, once Ginger is done, Dan Armstrong will cover the third quarter financials for the land trust. So with that, Ginger, I'll turn the meeting over to you for your report and different items that you
Can
have.
I ask Keith a question before we get into the agenda, a real quick one?
Yes?
I tried to answer, but you cut us off so quick I couldn't get my hand. Keith, in reference to the ADVIT program, is there a place on the website as a tutorial so that the associations can go back to and remind themselves how to get into the system?
There is a step-by-step tutorial for it, or if you just reach out to your CAM, we can do a quick overview, either over the phone. Normally we have everybody come in the office and you can show them, with the CAM at their desk, so it's a little bit challenging for that. But there is some information on there how to refresh and what to do with the course. So.
Thank you.
Ginger, you're up. And I know I gave you a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday. Let me get my notes in order here since Jack kind of threw a little bit at me here I wasn't expecting. Can y'all hear me all right with my mask on? Okay. All right, I'm going to go through the report, just summarily touch on a couple of things and then get to some other business. On the clubhouse usage for January, we had over 22,400 visits, averaging 725 daily visits. Interesting to note that the clubhouse was the main clubhouse was 44% of those, which is not something you've seen before. It's always the South Club has the higher participation, but of course we had to close down the dining room so you can see the effect that had with Palm Court not being in the mix there. In fitness center usage for January, we had over 5,300 visits to the gym, and 30% of those were at the South Club. In spa and salon usage, we did over 19,000 for January. We always see a drop after the holidays, 3% less than prior month, but of course much less, 55% less than prior year. In food and beverage services, as I mentioned, effective Friday, January 22nd, we did close the Palm Court. We had a number of COVID cases, as well as some staff cases that had to quarantine, and we just thought that was a safer course of action when you don't have enough people to operate, fully. So that was closed down. We have chosen not to open up indoor dining at this time, but that will. We will revert to outdoor full-service dining. That was effective actually yesterday. So full service outside on the patio will be 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. The outdoor dining will be supported by 2 outdoor dining areas for seating, PC Cafe Patio 1 and the poolside patio 2 for overflow and large groups seating up to 8 people. All residents must enter through the South Club through the main front lobby entrance, present the KP badge, have their temperatures taken, and their badges scanned. Then they will be directed by the hostess to take their tables. You must remain seated in your seats until service ends and then exit the clubhouse. If you do circulate to go to the restroom, you must wear a mask. There also will be a new menu that's been rolled out by Chef Mark and his team. And we look forward to your enjoyment of that until we can get back to indoor dining. So for the month of January, total sales were over $57,700, which was a 16% decrease over prior month. And we served 4,928 patrons in January. On the projects, we have a number of things that had been approved by the Federation Board. The erosion project at 1904 has been completed, so Keith and his team can feel safe. They're not going to fall into the lake. We've got the main clubhouse portico roof project completed. A number of HVAC replacements have been installed. We're working on the installation and enhancement of the surveillance camera project. Main clubhouse theater sound system project is in progress. We've got the bids currently, and those are under review. The moisture intrusion testing for the main clubhouse 2020 and South Club have been completed. I believe Victoria got a, 25-page report. She's sifting through, and we're getting some additional information. If you've ever dealt with moisture or water intrusion, it's a tough one. Water travels, so there's a lot of information there that she's got to try to figure out. The South Club locker room renovation project is 80% complete. I believe we're still waiting on the county to do their inspections. We are doing other things while we're waiting for that, but they can't close up the wall until the county gets out here and checks on the things they need to look at. The main clubhouse outdoor chair lift replacement is pending installation date from the vendor, and the South Club HVAC replacements are completed. On the tram services, we did 1,700 miles in January with a total ridership of 1,479. In security operations, we had a 12% decrease over prior month and only took 10,607 calls. As you can imagine, with 12% decrease over the holidays, that's still a lot of volume at the gates. We issued 13,242 passes. The front, just on a notable here, we had the front gate receive a call at 12:30 a.m. A woman was frantic, and she had just come back from back surgery and was so upset her dog had gotten out and didn't come back. And the officer went out on patrol and was able to find her dog and coax it back home with some of our visitor doggy biscuits and bring her dog back to her. Now, you learn something new every day. I didn't even know the staff had visitor doggy biscuits at the front gate, but what a great idea. And thank you to the guard who helped her out and went and found her dog for her. During the month of January, we had 5,758 card swipes at the golf cart gate, averaging 186 golf cart entries each day. With regard to COVID operations, thank you, Jack, for your acknowledgement of the efforts put forth by all the parties. It does take a village. This wasn't a solitary effort. Jack mentioned many of the players vested in partnership with the community leaders, federation and master boards, management companies, also generous donations from the COA. I don't think you mentioned that one. I know you mentioned the emergency squad with guidance from Mike Bardell, also CERT. They've sent an army of volunteers out, certainly Cat Drinkard and the Pickleball Club. And there were even more. We had ordered or requested Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to send out officers for traffic control. Well, because of the Super Bowl, they're all booked up. Nobody would take our shifts. So you had Pete and the security guards out there at the corner of, Clubhouse and Kings, which is not a fun shift. Trust me, there's a lot of cars, a lot of action going on. So the security team was out there working that. And I don't want to forget Denny in the back there filming. She was at Matt's right hand, always helping to process a lot of the calls and the emails coming in with people frantic wanting to get on the schedule. And then all the staff, both Vesta and First Service, who held down the fort while the rest of us were out running around because they were short-staffed because everybody was dispatched. So everybody came together for the greater good. It's a rare opportunity that comes along in life when you can help people and save lives, and it has been an absolute privilege to serve this community and be able to get this program underway. The second round of doses will begin approximately on February 23rd. I say approximately because until they're here that day, we have to only go on what they tell us. The basic plan is that if you came on the first day at 11 a.m., then most likely you're going to come again on the first day at 11 o'clock, rather than going through and trying to book. But please, Do not call and ask about your time. Wait for further communications to go out. We'll get Matt and Denny a little breathing room here. When we hear more, we will send out clear communications about when you can expect to come back for your second shot. Also, there has been a rash of folks sharing Matt Permuth's private cell phone number. He's getting calls from out of town and everybody and their brother asking for help. He's a pretty energetic guy, but there's only so much, you know. So please, please do not give out his personal cell phone. If they are that interested, they can send an email, and then it's not, you know, just random calls coming in. And even though you may have received your vaccination, just a reminder, masks still are required when in the clubhouses until further notice. Want me to shift to the survey?
Yep,
Okay.
you're ready.
Okay, that's the end of my operations report. Want to shift gears. We call it a survey, but one of the things that was determined,
Ginger,
I'm sorry?
I don't mean to interrupt you. Would you ask them to mute their phone?
For those who join the call, please *6. We can hear somebody talking in the background. He's talking and he can't hear me. Could you please *6, who's ever talking in the background? Thank you. When Vesta renewed our management agreement, we had agreed to, we call it a survey, but it's basically an assessment to determine the customer sentiment, how they feel that Vesta is doing in providing services and programs to the community. Do you want Raleigh to try and mute all?
I would prefer not to
Okay.
mute everybody because most people are muted. And the gentleman who has not muted his phone, it would be very appreciative if you would *6 and mute your phone because you're interfering with other people hearing Ginger's report. And we have a lot of important business to discuss today.
Okay, so one of the agreements with the board in our contract renewal was to be able to put out a vehicle through which we could find out what the customer base here, in other words, the community of Kings Point, in general felt about our services and programs and how we were doing. So we formed a committee out of the RFEC, an ad hoc committee. It was, the board member who was tasked with oversight was Dan Hector. And we worked and came up with, it's a Survey Monkey survey that will be going out to 114 association presidents, and also a random sample of about 100 community residents, as well as the Federation and RFEC members. These will go back to the auditor. A third party will receive the data and distribute it to the management company and the Federation board for review, and we will go from there. So what the board will be doing today is voting on that.
The approval of the survey.
The approval of the survey. They have had the links to the Survey Monkey. They've been able to read all the questions and see how diverse the questions are with relation to giving us some feedback about everything from security to housekeeping to dining to
Sample size. Sample size.
yes. Yeah, we're not going to go into all that. Is that sum it up for you?
Yes, then I would move, seeing the board has had an opportunity to review the survey. The survey was taken as a sample by the members of the committee to see how it went, and I would move that the board approve for current and future use the new survey that was developed by the RFEC committee, Dan, and Vesta. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So Ginger, you now have your new survey, and you can send it out to the board, the residents, and basically we can see how well you're performing.
Okay, we will, it's February 5th, we will work on the names next week, and we will hope to get that out probably, if not next week, the week after, and then we'll give them a time frame. It can't be open forever, it's going to be a
Yeah.
turnaround time, so that this sitting board can review those results when they come back. Move on to the next one?
Move on to the next one.
Okay, so Jack had mentioned, we had provided an executive summary to the board of directors that is a proposal to advance the South Club's exterior painting project and the South Club tile roof replacement project into this current budget year. They had been budgeted for this, for 2021-22 budget year. We proposed a strategy with the justification of the possibility of weather limitations and project delays in the spring and summer season. We also have had the ongoing challenge of roof leaks throughout the building due to the current roof reaching its life expectancy. We've got the ever-present concern of Florida rains, and we've also got the brand-new restroom renovations down there that have experienced some damage from water and leaks, and we don't want to have those all brand new and then potentially some damage because of, a driving rain. We think this is proactive planning. It allows for the completion of both projects, and we can focus then afterwards, after April 1st, on the interior projects that won't be affected by the unpredictable weather. The approved budget for these projects for the South Club tile roof replacement was $485,000, and the South Club exterior painting was $60,000. Those are already budgeted, they've already been approved, and they're currently available in the replacement reserve account. We obtained 4 bids on the roofing, and that is the new document I gave the board. You had 3, but Victoria just got in the 4th one, which was Springer Peterson, who has done a lot of work here. They are the preferred vendor. They will be including a couple of the parameters that we were wanting, and you can see those listed there. Their bid came in at $356,185, which is generously below what had been budgeted, so we've got plenty of funds in there to do that project. And on the vendor bid for the painting, the preferred vendor was Finest Touch Commercial Painting at $25,000. Vesta Property Services offers this proposed plan of action to the Federation Board for consideration and approval. If they accept and approve the commencement of both the painting as well as the tile roof replacement for the South Club with the preferred vendors prior to the end of the fiscal year, these projects can be completed before the rainy season to deter further water damage from occurring in the building.
Okay, I'm going to change what you did a little, and I will move that we advance it to be done during the fiscal year of 2021. However, as the board does require review of the bids, and we do require a approval of the contract for that bid, with that we are approving you advancing it. And if you bring to the board the bids and contract, we will be more than glad to get those approved so you can commence the work as quickly as possible. But we've already budgeted the money, so it's just a matter of approving the contract and assuring the vendor meets the criteria of the contract. So I would move that we do move the initiation of those 2 projects up to prior to April 1st, pending approval of the contract and the preferred vendor by the board. Hey, do you have a problem with that,
None whatsoever.
the way that's motioned?
That's fine.
Second it.
Wait, thank you. Alan,
Yeah, I just have a question.
you're gonna have to move up near the phone.
It may be directed toward Victoria if it's detailed.
Just a question, yes, it may be for both you and Victoria. You said this bid just came in. It's kind of a red flag because we have 3 bids that are kind of close, and this is significant, but you probably hadn't had much time yet to vet this bid and really analyze it and know that this is a good bid, even though it's so much less.
Yes, and that's why my approval is not approving the actual preferred vendors.
I met with him several times over the past 2 weeks. The
You're
reason.
gonna have to move up here, Victoria.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The bid was given the same scope of work for all of the vendors, so they are bidding on the same scope of work. The bid has a lower price due to the fact that they're getting a better rate on materials from the supplier.
Okay, so we can discuss
The
that.
details of it, yes.
We can discuss the details of that when we approve which vendor you use in their contract.
Not a problem.
And by the way, Alan, that was the first thing I asked for. That sounds too good to be true. So to Jack's point on the motion, is we'll show you all the bids and go through the detail, not for this call, but in our session.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any other discussion?
There's no funny business happening. They had 3 bids for reroofing and new clubhouse that were all close together. And now they just got another bid, and it's much, much lower.
Do you identify yourself, caller?
Can you identify who you're speaking to and what your question is?
I heard what he said. He said.
I know, but I'd like to know who it is.
Okay.
Just motion at the same time.
What did he say?
He said all the bids came in at the same time. Actually, the executive
I
summary
don't
that
think
was.
he even knows he's on.
The
He's
exec-
talking to somebody in his room.
Okay, I guess he thinks there's plenty of this. When we produced the executive summary report for you all, we had 3, we had already made requests for more.
He's not even listening to you, don't worry about it.
And nobody else can hear though.
Yeah.
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 He's disrupting.
Can they hear over him though?
He's disrupting the meeting.
We don't know who it is. Therefore, I'll call the question. All in favor of advancing this to be started during this fiscal year, even though it is budgeted for the next fiscal year and the money will be replenished back into the land trust budget? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Therefore, Ginger, you have approval to go ahead and start the project, subject to the board approval of the contract and the selection of the vendor.
Okay?
Thank you, Ginger.
Thanks, Ginger.
Good work, Dick.
Thank you.
Before Dan starts his report on the quarterly, I'm going to ask one more time for the individual that is talking in the background to please mute your phone. You are interfering with other people on the call being able to hear these presentations. I know you may want to discuss about when the bids came in and how the bids were done, but you're not discussing it with the board, you're discussing it with other individuals. Please mute your phones. Dan, it's up to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, morning, everybody. Today, we are going through the 3rd quarter of the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. We have your standard 8-page packet that we've been providing for a number of years. Your front page is your statement of financial position. You have a column for the most recent quarter ended 12/31/20 compared to the most recent fiscal year ended 3/31 and a change column. Let's start from the top and briefly go top to bottom. Your cash in the right-hand column at the bottom of that first section, you can see is down about $97,000. That's a very good result considering what's gone through this year, and I'll get into that a little bit more. Most of the changes in those top two rows are just a reclassification where we carved out the operating reserves, which is a defined term in the trust agreement to officially recognize the excesses of prior years as a separate reserve. That amount started at about $530,000 and has had two projects approved over the last 6 months to draw down from it. So there is your balance now. The next section, total other current assets, not a lot of activity going on there. The biggest change is the fourth line item, that's your prepaids and other current assets. That is where your annual insurance policy, which is paid in advance every April 30th, goes as a prepaid asset, and then as the years goes by, that amount drops because the amount which is prepaid drops because you're paying the current period portion each period. Or each month, excuse me. The next section, total property and equipment. The only changes there year-to-date is the change in accumulated depreciation. We are booking the depreciation entries quarterly now, but the assets will only still be capitalized once a year. Remember, the expenditures during the year, we leave in the P&L or the statement of activities so that it can be properly compared to budget as we go through the year. And then together with the auditors, at the end of the year, we take a look at all those activities and see which becomes capital, and it ends up in this section.
And that was a change requested by the auditor, am I correct?
No, that treatment for the, well, it depends on what part you're asking.
I'm talking about the depreciation on a quarterly
Yeah, the
basis.
depreciation quarterly is exactly. They said you might as well go ahead and book it quarterly now that we're booking it. Remember back in 2017, we recreated the wheel essentially and began recognizing depreciation when it had not been for the first 10 years of the trust. And then for 2 years, we were just doing it annually, and the auditors looked like, if we're doing it, do it. So, we put it in quarterly.
The other part was the spreadsheets had some inconsistencies. Has that been resolved, or have you upgraded?
Yeah, well, the spreadsheets having the duplicate items that cause extra depreciation has been resolved. And in fact, if you were referring to the request by the board to get a software involved and track it ourselves rather than an Excel spreadsheet, that project is underway. In fact, Rick sent me a third round draft or something like that this week, so we're getting real close. And that's in good shape. Where was I? Okay, long-term leases. The top line of that section, of course, is your total lease back from the acquisition in 2007. The second line recognizes the portion of those leases that has expired, meaning 1/66 per year. When you acquired the property, I think there were 67 or 66 years on lease left, so that will be amortized very slowly down to zero, the total of those two accounts. All right, then you've got your liabilities and net assets, which is the lower half of the balance sheet. The first section being your current liabilities. You can see there's not a lot of difference between the two periods, about $80,000. Most of the increase is in accounts payable. That's your trade payables. And a month like during the season, December 31st is always going to have more current accounts payable outstanding than March 31st when your season is ending. So that's not unusual whatsoever. The large drop in accrued expenses is also related to something that's seasonal. It's mostly paid vacations, where we have to accrue for vacations and wages. And going into the summer, it's high, and then it drops a bunch during the summer, because that's when the staff has time to actually take off. Let's see what else is changing. Your long-term debt is consistently going down along with your monthly payments. Those other two lines, remember, are just reclassification of the current portion into a line above it where it's recognized as a current liability. So there's an offsetting line there. If you look at the first column, it's $1,447,230. That's the current portion that you will pay on your debt in the next 12 months looking prospectively. And then, of course, you've got your change in net asset section at the bottom. Now, going quickly now through the next page, second page is your consolidation page. It has all your individual departments listed with an elimination column. The far right-hand column ties to the left-hand column on the prior page. We got that, so you can look at that detail and send me questions if you have it, or stop me at any given point, of course. Page 3 is your statement of cash activities on a consolidated basis. This consolidates your trust, rec area, security, and transportation, and compares to the combined budget. So let's take a look. How would we do? Halfway down the page, income and loss from operations, negative $70,800. So there's $71,000 in operations off through 3 quarters. That's an improvement, in case you have the old report from last quarter. Through 6 months, it was about 78 or 79. So that's a slight improvement, which means, on the whole, the quarter was actually favorable to budget.
Before you leave that page, just so the presidents and residents, because they don't get a copy of the quarterly report, the operating income, basically, we show to budget a negative $1,054,000 negative to budget. The majority of that is from event revenue, but mainly from food and beverage sales. So if people want to know how much we've been saving, when we look at what we expected to get as revenue from events, food, and other venues, we truly, to budget, are down $1 million. However, there is operating expenses that show a negative $84,000. So we may have saved $84,000 in expenses, but we truly lost over $1 million in revenue, which is where you came to the $70,000 from.
Exactly.
Correct?
Now, those of you who can't see me, there's a very sad look on my face, because Jack is stealing my thunder. Yes, yeah, exactly. $984,000 favorable to budget on the expenses looks really good, until you look at the top section and realize that $1,055,000 that were budgeted to come in the door didn't. So there is that deficit of $71,000 roughly. Additionally, in the next section down, the other income and expense, there are some variances to budget that increase that deficit. There's a deficit in interest income of about $19,000, and then there was one special approved item for a capital item that was not budgeted of, actually that's 2 separate items, I apologize. Isn't that right, Ginger? $27,789 year to date.
Wasn't that for the 1904 building?
Moisture erosion and,
The moisture erosion project, and I didn't bring anything else up with me, so I can't remember.
moisture is 1, erosion is 2.
Can you repeat
And
it
then there
so I
was a
didn't-
change order for
The locker room.
the locker.
Yeah, we had a change order for the locker room that
That was
was
Locker room change order.
under budget, which has caused that particular
Right.
aspect of it.
Going on down the page, what we've done, this is the new section that we talked about last couple of quarters. We're reconciling from the change in net assets, which is kind of your net income or loss in the commercial world, to a net cash flow. So we're adding back depreciation and amortization expense, and we're subtracting principal payments, which hasn't been accounted for anywhere else on this page. So while the bad news at that change in net assets shows year-to-date, you got a net loss of $720,000 rounded.
To budget.
Nope, in this case, I'm talking about the actual in the left-hand column, 720, and it's 118 off actual. If you go on down and carry it by adding back the depreciation and amortization, your net cash flow is still positive.
Okay.
So it's not disaster. You are $118,000 off budget, but you have $215,000 of positive net cash flow. Okay, it's just not the addition to your reserves that you were hoping to accomplish this year. So, and the reason for those of you on the phone, Jack is jumping in there, I have made that mistake a few times. Not always referencing when I'm talking about to budget versus the actual column. And when you don't have it in front of you, it is tough to follow. The page 4, everybody that has it knows, but it's a consolidation Basically, again, listing out the trust rec area, security, adding them together with an elimination, that ties to the prior page. So it's the detail behind the consolidation. Next 4 pages are the actual the budget for the divisions themselves, the breakdown. The trust, of course, is just an entity that was created to hold the land leases and accept the remainder of the rec area assessment so that the loan can be paid from it and hold the assets. On the P&L, the activity is just a carve-out of the total assessments. We call it debt service assessments in the revenue section. And then, of course, you show the management fee funneling in and out. It's the same amount in both income and expense because it's actually collected at the federation level. Interest earnings, that's where your big budget deficit is, by the way. If you look in the right-hand column, $19,500 off budget through the year because interest rates have fallen off the face of the earth. And then, of course, going on down, we recognize the depreciation and amortization on a quarterly basis now, and it looks like a big old net loss in the line that says change in net assets. Right-hand column, left side is $534,000 loss year-to-date, $19,000 off budget. Okay, of course, carrying it down again, add back the depreciation and amortization, which is a non-cash expense, subtract your principal, and it shows positive cash flow of $400,000. All right. So don't want to put too much panic in by talking about all these losses. We are significantly off budget, although it improved in Q3 and was at slightly favorable to budget, but your trust is in good shape. All right. Rec area, I'll try to be a little bit more brief now going forward. Just go a straight right-hand bottom number. See, it's a negative $176,300. That means the rec area by itself, year-to-date, is that much off of budget. Okay, so it's the big factor in the total 118 that we had on the other page. Now, how does 176 get back to 118? There's some positive numbers in both security and transportation. I'm on page 7 now, bottom right-hand corner. You can see rounded $30,000 favorable to budget through 9 months. And that's mostly savings, well, you can look, a lot of savings in the lines above it, operating expenses, administrative costs, and of course, significant savings in wages and benefits. And then the same thing is happening in transportation. I'm on page 8. In the bottom right-hand corner, big positive number of $48,000 favorable to budget. You just kind of slide your eyes to the left. You can see the budget column has a negative number, so we expected to use up $28,000 worth of cash. Remember, both security and transportation have cash to roll forward. That's why we budgeted more expense than we did assessments. We're trying to use that up, and there's no reason to assess for the full operations if you've got cash in the bank. But this shows that we'll have cash to roll over again next year, so it's a very good result for a bad reason, of course. But it's $48,000 favorable to budget. Any questions about that all?
Thank you, Dan. I won't give you a hard time.
Thank you, sir.
And we will go to committee reports. Dave, do you have anything? And please walk over to the phone.
Nothing to report at this time.
Noreen,
Nothing to report at this time.
Ryan,
No.
Keith, excuse me.
I'm ready. Keith over there.
I know, Rick. You know, at my age, sometimes the names get confused. Rick, you have anything? Janice, do you have anything?
No, Keith touched on our insurance committee meeting yesterday and said what's going on.
Okay, then Alan, I know you have an issue you'd like to discuss to the board, so.
Sure, and just a quick update. I did give a report on the Falcon Watch clubhouse at the membership meeting, and you can all see in the minutes of that meeting, if you go to KPSCC and the Federation and see the minutes, you can see that report. So I'm not going to repeat that whole report. But just an update, I did hear back from Jim, who said he still
Identify, Jim.
Jim Argiro, the president of the Master Association, said that the master did meet. They again refused to meet with us on that, but he has been talking to me. He said he'll talk again. They had some ideas. I don't know what the ideas are. So I'll be talking. He said, call me next week. So I'll be talking to him next week just to get whatever they have in mind and updates there. So that's that report.
And you will be doing your treasurer's report in March or?
Actually, I'll do it right now. I gave the treasury report for the end of the third quarter results at the membership meeting. I'll give it again today, right now, just at our meeting. So the Federation ended in December 31st for their first 3 quarters with total assets of cash $69,292, total restricted funds balance of $462,836. And the same reserve liability, and of course the members' equity is $69,292. The revenues and expenses, revenues are right on target. Budgeted revenue is just right on target with the budget. The other revenues, we received $46,317. Primarily, that's the transfer fee income that we've received. The rest of the expenditures are right on target, well below budget for administrative utilities and contracts. And the reserve balances for landscape continues. We added $10,575 for a balance of $26,487 in landscape reserve fund. The insurance deductible fund, we had a great quarter. There were no claims in the third quarter for the insurance deductible fund. The total expenditures through 3 quarters is $28,047, which still leaves a balance of $137,226 in the insurance deductible fund. Grounds cleanup added $11,250 for a total balance of $26,238. The legal fund maintains a balance of $25,000 with no activity. The professional services account expenditures through 3 quarters is $49,768. for a balance in that account of $69,010. We received the revenue, including the transfer from registration fees to that fund. Contracts expended $28,560. Primarily, that's the 2 additional palm fertilizations that we have. That we're looking at incorporating to the regular contracts next year, but that came out with a total balance in contracts of $51,041. Community promotion expenditures $9,918 for a balance of $13,516. That's primarily for the website. And the registration fees, revenue is $46,050. For the 3 quarters, and again, we transferred out $68,700, transferred that into the professional services account. That's per the budget that was approved on that, for a total balance in registration fees of $114,317, or I'm sorry, $318. So that's the treasurer's report. Any questions?
No, thank you very much, Al.
Hey, Jack, can I say something while you're getting up there? This is good
You
news.
can,
Yeah.
Ginger, you have a right to say anything you want.
Well,
Whenever.
Matt's out there. He just said that emergency management from Tallahassee just called and said that the Kings Point program has gone far above what anybody else has done.
Get close to the phone so they can hear what you're saying, because I think this is very important for the community.
Emergency management called and said that Kings Point program has gone far above and beyond what any other program has done. And we put in a request to be able to host the 55 to 65 group when that gets doled out, because that's a huge consideration here in a 55 plus community. it was only 65 and above. So we had those 10 years of people that definitely wanted to get their shot. So this just came in and good news, so.
Well, it only.
It will be a while, but
No, it only goes to show the appreciation, and Ginger mentioned the emergency management. That is the State Office of Emergency Management.
that's overseeing all of
Who
it.
basically oversees the entire COVID vaccination program. They're the ones who allot or allocate how many dosages and where they go. They're the ones that oversee the program. They came here to oversee what our traffic pattern would be, how we were going to operate. And for them to come back to Kings Point and say how we exceeded any expectations that they had is a compliment not only to the entire management staff and boards of this community, but also to the residents and their willingness to work with the traffic control, to work with the people, filling out the forms. Yes, it does, as you said earlier, it does take a village. So residents, this is kudos to the people who set it up, but it's also kudos to the residents because without you, the greatest planning doesn't mean it's going to work. So the residents need to be thanked for their understanding, their patience, and their willingness to work with us on the entire program. So thank you guys, and thank you, Ginger, for letting us know that. My presentation is going to be rather brief. I do want to know, and the presidents who are on the line can pass the word, that everyone has wanted to understand what the Federation Board's legal counsel has found in regard to our investigation of the loan that was refinanced in 2017. We will be doing a simultaneous broadcast, which means we will be doing a presentation which will be broadcast live on one of the two TV channels. And I thank Vesta for setting that up. We will also be setting up some manner in which residents who are at home watching it on TV may have a question that they will be able to ask the question possibly at the end of the presentation.
Be through the phone.
It is about 15 to 17 slides long, and it is scheduled for the 15th of February, and we will do it at 2:30, so that will give residents the time to be home and also give them time before dinner. As most residents are out in the morning, we figured having this in the afternoon would be the best way possible. So if you'd like to know what the board has found, there will be a summary presentation. The majority of the summary was put together and information was collected by the attorneys of Holland and Knight. This is not a board opinion. This is directly coming from the attorneys, and the residents have a right to know what we have found out with our investigation. And we will do that presentation on February 15th, which is a Monday at 2:30 in the afternoon. You don't have to worry that you're going to miss something because it will be simultaneously broadcast on the TV, and we will provide more information on what station and also the call-in manner. In regard to the upcoming election, just so the community is aware, the COA offered to the Federation to do a meet the candidates. The Federation Board decided to turn down the COA's offer. However, we will be conducting a meet the candidates on March 2nd at 2 p.m. The panel will be overseen or conducted by Ginger, who has great experience in handling panels. She will be putting together some of the questions, as will the board, as the board really understands what the board does. This will be held, for your information, in the theater. It will be videotaped, but we will allow, depending upon how many candidates there are, residents to attend the meeting, up to 30, 35 residents. It'll be on a first come, first served basis, and you will get more information on that. And for the first time, we believe it would be appropriate if residents wanted to ask questions who are in the audience, that they can be directed to Ginger, and Ginger, or Ginger will handle those questions, direct them to whatever candidate was there. But it gives the community the opportunity, if they have a question, not to rely just upon what Ginger came up with the questions, or what the board came up as the questions, but also what the residents may have. So I wanted to let you know why that change was made. We appreciate the offer of the COA. We just felt that it would be much more pointed to be able to directionalize meet the candidates specifically to board issues, the way the Federation Board operates, to give the community a greater understanding of the capabilities and what each candidate can bring to it. And with that, those are the two issues that I have in a president's report. And again, to the community, thank you so much for your cooperation and willingness to work with all the parties involved. And I didn't mean to slight the COA at all for their contribution.
There's a lot, yeah.
I didn't keep track of who was contributing, and I know Ginger had mentioned to me that the COA had contributed to the hospitality a considerable amount of money, and to them, I thank them. I will tell you that the staff workers and the nurses and stuff were very appreciative of that hospitality suite that was set up for them. After today, we'll have our 2-lane roads back. We will have entrance into the North Clubhouse, going again through the portico main doors. Am I correct, Ginger?
Yep.
And the community will get back to a little bit more normal without having to divert through traffic trying to get anywhere.
After 5 o'clock today.
And we, after 5 o'clock today, and we really appreciate all the work of the residents, but specifically the volunteers who stood out in the cold a number of mornings working to assist the residents to make this such a success. So thank you very much. With that, there being no new business, old business, we will move to new business.
You got open forum on here.
And during this presentation, we will open the line up to any open forum on the 2 new issues online. Is there anyone prior to that has any question for open forum? If you do, please unmute your phone by *6.
Jackson? Jack?
Yes.
This is Mary Ann Meeker from Oakley Green.
Yes, Mary Ann?
I strongly suggest that in all future meetings that you do with these conference calls, that you mute everyone so that people can understand what's going on. As you can see, I'm being interrupted right now by someone.
I agree. The reason we didn't mute everybody's call, which we do have the capability, is during our membership meeting, Vesta's technical department muted the lines, and we had a problem because nobody could unmute.
So I just unmuted, and I appreciate it. It's going forward, everyone. Thank you.
And Mary Ann, I will tell you, we know the individual that did not mute their phone, and I am quite sure that someone will be contacting them in the future to advise them if they want to call in, that they must remember to mute their phone, because we were able to identify the person calling in that was not muting their phone.
Okay.
And I appreciate your concern, Mary Ann. I appreciate that at least you and the other majority of people do mute their phones. Any other comments?
Jack, I have a comment. Susan Rather, Manchester too.
Yes, Susan.
With the Falcon Lodge situation, what happens to the computer? Is that going to be moved again? That's now the third time that we're reshuffling that. What is the cost involved in trying to move that and set that up again? And do we know where you're going to put it?
The cost would be zero, and to my understanding, go back into the
Where they were.
North Clubhouse, exactly where they were. There would be no cost involved. It would be Vesta who would be moving them. But seeing, we have been advised in writing by the master that we had a lease with them. There was no provision for us to terminate. When I say we and us, I'm speaking of the land trust. And they were not interested in letting us out of that lease. The residents of this community, in the Federation Board's opinion, who oversees the land trust, that the community is losing out on the capability of utilizing that building to bring revenue into this community, which Alan has covered on numerous occasions. If the master comes up with an idea and they want to release the land trust from its lease, the land trust is more than willing to be released from that lease. It was verbally offered and then pulled back to Alan Hahn to release the land trust from that lease. When Alan Hahn noted that the Federation, in speaking for the land trust, would be more than glad to accept the offer to have the lease revoked, the sublease, the master came back and said, no, they really don't want to remove us
I
from the
understand all
sublease.
that, but the expense.
Well, I just
for
want the other residents to understand that, Susan.
Well, you talk about the expense. The expense will be there for the Federation, but the expense is there for the lease, is it not?
The expense of approximately $50,000 a month is an expense that the land trust pays yearly.
And we contribute as residents.
That is correct.
Not per month.
Okay,
It's
so
not
the
per month, it's
expense
per year, that's the expense per year.
Right, okay. So there is an expense that remains. The only thing that changes is for Vesta not paying it too, I guess.
No, the
The
expense would
master
go
of the
away
land
because.
trust.
Well, if it was leased out to Salas or some other company,
Right.
the Federation, the trust, or the master would be recovering lease money by leasing it to another company, such as Salas.
But we are a private, yeah, I understand, but we're a private area here to bring an outsider in.
Well, we already have KPW here that is a private company, and it brings in quality every single day, which is a private outside company. And we are worried and look for the residents to benefit from the possible lease of that building, whether it's not Salas, or it could be some other company, but the residents of this community should reap some benefit from having that building sitting there.
And Salas has agreed that in their lease, they would only provide services to Kings Point residents. They would not take anybody outside of Kings Point, so there would be no traffic outside of Kings Point. It would only be Kings Point residents, and in their business model, they were, in the size of our community, They were fine. They think that would operate wonderfully for them. And they were willing to do that put it in their lease, that they would only service Kings Point residents.
I understand all that, and we had that conversation when we first opened up the spa, remember? It was supposed to be only for Kings Point residents. But because it brings in additional revenue, which I understand, we opened it up to the other side, Sun City Center. Those people come in here for the use of spa, am I correct or not?
We opened available spaces that were not being used to bring in additional revenue from the salon because there was insufficient participation within the community that would fill all the spaces for massages, haircuts, manicures. So we had
I get all
available
that. So the
spaces.
same thing, okay, Jack, I know all that. But the same thing could.
No,
apply
that was a
to-
decision made, no, that was a decision made by the Federation on behalf of the Land Trust, who controls the 2020 building and the spa. It is Land Trust business. The Land Trust came to us through their management company and asked if individuals could come in from outside. The Federation, for the benefit of revenue to the Land Trust, said yes.
Time on this subject, it's gone way over.
And spa is an out function.
All right.
Stylist is an outside function, and they're gonna agree in their contract not to. We're talking about bringing money to offset our expenses. That's why they were brought in.
I agree with you, Rick. Is there any other comments?
That's,
Susan, your time
Thank
is...
you.
Is there any other comments, concerns, or questions? Then if not, we will go on to new business. The first business is, and I'm going to do it as the tree and palm, seeing I have it in front of me, and then I will let Rick do. We instituted a palm and hardwood tree committee last year, of which some residents were a member of and was originally chaired by Bill Robb. The Tree and Palm Committee suggested an alternative method for trimming both the oak trees and trimming the palm trees. Residents had expressed to us monthly maintenance on the palm trees because if they were trimmed in April and then they weren't trimmed in May, or in September or October, that what did they do in the interim? So what the Tree and Palm Committee wanted to do was they would trim the palm trees starting in April. They would go through the entire community, and then every month the contractor would come back and maintain the trimmings on the palm tree by removing low-hanging fronds, seed pods, other things on the palm trees on a monthly basis for every association that had palm trees. In regarding the hardwood or the oak trees, it was suggested by the committee. Susan, could you mute your phone, please? It was suggested that the palm trees have a thorough cutting. Basically, they have to be done once every 3 years. It would be thinning them out, removing branches, removing trees near the branches near roofs and stuff. They would be a very extensive process. We took out, based upon the recommendations of the Palm and Tree Committee, we sent out an RFP for a 3-year contract to begin April next year, this year of 2021. There were 4 companies, including the current company, Grow, who expressed a desire to respond to the RFP. After consideration by the committee and in consultation with the management company, Brown's Tree Service was selected. Keith Wilking from First Service worked with the Palm and Tree Committee and the Landscape Committee and presented the elements of the agreement to the board. The board made some suggestions on items such as having it done monthly. The contract has been finalized. It has been fully reviewed and vetted by our legal counsel and our contract committee. The basic contract is for the 3 years. The first year it would be $508,000. Second year it would be $524,000, and the third year it would be $539,000. And I have rounded those figures up, making the total of the contract for tree and hardwood or oak, the palms and the oaks, a total of $1,577,526.28. But more importantly, it would resolve the problem many communities are having, that once their trees are done in April, they're not touched again until the following cycle. So we would do one major cycle and then do monthly maintenance on the trees. I would move that the tree and palm agreement be between the Federation and Brown's Tree Service be approved by the board. And I have a second to that.
Second.
Brian seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we will be presenting that contract to the membership for their approval at the February 18th? What's the date? 19th, the February 19th membership, and it will be included within the proxy packages sent out. And I will turn the meeting over to Rick so he can discuss the proposal on the website.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, prior to making a motion, Dan had to leave, and he wanted me to present a short outline of the procedure that was gone through relative to the website proposal. So I'm reading what he has left for me. The Communications Promotion Committee sent out an RFP for the creation of web services. 4 companies responded. The Communications Committee made a selection which was presented to and approved by the board. Following approval, J2 Studios and the committee representatives, a representative of the contract committee, and Mr. Wilkins of First Service worked out the details and timing of the work to be performed, as well as the payment structure which was presented to the board at last week's workshop. The agreement has been sent to legal counsel for review. Now I'd like to make my motion. Pending final review of the legal counsel, I make a motion that the agreement with J2 Studios in the amount of $8,900 be approved by the board.
Second?
Second.
Janice seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is passed, and we will be presenting that pending legal review on the February 19th meeting with the proxy. And I would like to extend, Rick, I would like to extend my appreciation to you as chair and to the members of your committee that worked very diligently on the development of the proposal of getting a new website. I appreciate their efforts. I know they put in a great deal of time and effort on that, and I want to thank them for the work they did on it.
I appreciate you appreciating me, but I'd like to extend my appreciation to the board members. Since this is a very technical issue, I was on the parameters of it, just try to orchestrate the procedures. But mainly, it was performed by Keith from First Service and the contract committee, who put a lot of time into the community website committee, who put a lot of time into it. And one of the members commuted by phone from Canada here through Zoom. So I appreciate all the efforts that they have put into it.
And before we go to good and welfare, there's only one comment that I would like to make, is this Federation Board has a fiduciary responsibility not only to its 113 members, but it also has a fiduciary responsibility for the land trust. We have been working very diligently with the existing trustee and the proposed new trustee. We have found a number of, I'm going to call them errors, with some documentation that basically have been allowed to continue from 2007 until current. I can tell you that Vesta, as our management company, and Kings Point Finance, who is the loan company, have been working with both our legal counsel handling it and the current trustee and the proposed new trustee to make sure the records are corrected and everything is in place. We are fortunate that the new trustee has a great deal of knowledge on the law, seeing he helped write it back in 2013. And I would like to extend my appreciation to Dan, because I know you're getting calls that it's like, we never knew. We never understood this particular aspect of it. Let's get it corrected, and you have been very helpful, so
Will do.
thank you, Dan. But it is also part of our fiduciary responsibility to ensure how the money is spent and spent appropriately. And it's one of the reasons the Federation Board, through Alan Hahn and Noreen Ricketts, took it upon themselves to attempt to try and do a survey of a possible use of the Falcon Watch, because we do have a fiduciary responsibility to try and save, whether it's the Federation or the Land Trust, in a financial manner. And that is one of the reasons the board took it on. We have only our responsibility and due diligence, and when I say responsibility, our fiduciary responsibility to handle that particular issue, and it's why we have taken the stance. It's fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility in trying to protect the cost to the land trust. So Alan and Noreen, thank you for your work on it. I appreciate it. With that, I will open the meeting up to any good and welfare announcements. If you have any, please *6 and unmute your phone. Hearing none, I will accept the motion from the board to adjourn the meeting. Rick, so moved. Second. Janice? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.